it comes to the tech support. Shred.
Hey, buddy.
Hey. You just go by Shred?
How's it going? You can call me Cameron.
Cameron? Cam?
Got it.
Right on. I'll make a note, Cam.
Yeah, dude. I think I might stream too.
You should, man. Like, you got nothing to lose from doing it and everything to gain. Oh, okay, wait. You could run into trouble with the FBI if you're not careful.
Not overly concerned about that.
Yeah. So you said that most recently you've been coasting, reading, hunting, just living.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's what happens when you got a big family. You know, you can't. It's no longer life. Life in single life is defined by. It's just like it's this constant struggle and like, oh, I need something to do. I need someone to love. I need this. I need that. And when you get this family life going on and careers and you got some stuff behind you, then you're able to just coast, and it's a way better life. I just started reading Seat to the Soul, really, really, really interesting book. That's Gary Zukav. He's a fantastic author, and it's just about. He sums it all up right in the introduction of the book. Of how I feel about life and how I felt for the last 3 years.
I bet you can't wait until your actual retirement, until money is no longer an object.
You know, I don't look forward to old age. I enjoy my youth, so really it's right here and now that I'm most excited about.
For sure, man. You gotta enjoy the present moment. Can't just be saving up for an uncertain tomorrow and ignoring what's right in front of you.
Yeah, and I mean financial security and having a bank behind you and having credit cards behind you and knowing that you don't have to worry about anything like that was an accomplishment that meant everything to me. So that's getting into banking and making progress and then meeting my wife, and it all comes together in one big package, and what else can you ask for?
Yeah, I mean, you're winning, right?
That's how it feels.
That's good.
But a lot of people are still up in their heads.
Yeah.
And when you're up in your head, like my wife is, it's hard. It's very hard for them to let go. Those are the phrases that I used for a long time, trying to say, you know, you need to let go. You need to let go of your past where terrible things happened. Her marriage fell apart and he was sent to prison because he's a pedophile. You know, it goes on and on.
Yeah. That's fucked.
It sure did, buddy. I saw that.
How old's the little one?
Yeah. He's turning 5 in September.
Ah, shit, that's a great age, man.
Going to school this year for the first time, yeah.
Yeah, that's solid. Like full of curiosity.
Yeah, extremely so. And everything is just so much different at that age. And I wish I could like either watch video of how I was or just like straight go back to that age so that I could relate to him more, because at this age, I always said I would be able to. I always said when I was 8 years old, I'm like, oh, my dad doesn't want to play with action figures with me. But when I'm his age, I tell you, I will play with action figures with my kids every day. Yep. And now I hold an action figure in my hand and I'm like, what am I doing?
All right. So I've got a viewing recommendation for you. It's a TED Talk.
Yeah.
It was given by this girl when she was just 12.
Okay.
I'm gonna find it because I can't think of it off the top of my head. But if you Google 12-year-old girl TED Talk, you'll find it. And you know, on the TED website, they have the transcript as well. So you can just like breeze right through it.
Adora Svitak?
Yeah, Adora. That's her name.
All right, I got it up. I'll watch it later.
Yeah, and the other thing, dude, just capture moments for him. You know, like it doesn't matter what you have, just whatever video camera you have, just roll it.
Oh, I know, right? And that's another thing. It's like she's always worried about where her expensive camera is, and we can't take pictures and stuff. Man, I'm uploading 200 things off my phone from like a month.
Yep.
Because I've got my phone. Why wouldn't you just use it? You know, the quality might suck, but
No, dude, the modern phones are fucking awesome.
the iPhone 7 is gorgeous. It takes wonderful footage. It's good.
I'm trying to ditch my iPhone 7 Plus. I got the 8 Plus, and I want to get this flagship Android, Huawei P20 Pro.
Right.
The thing's camera is beast, man. It's a Leica
Android's
triple lens
garbage.
system.
They just don't run as good, man. I can't. She's got a Samsung. I used to have Androids, and when I switched to iPhone, I didn't feel a big deal. I was like, well, the operating system's a lot different. It took a while to get used to, but eventually what happened was we were both playing a very new game on it. I don't like gaming on my phone much, but this one got hyped up. So we're playing this exact same game, and it ran like absolute garbage on her phone that's released the same time as this phone, and it just ran so smooth on mine. I'll never go back. It's better quality, I think. And the operating system. I think it's a lot to do with the operating system, to be honest.
I still haven't played with an Android device in earnest, so I'm really looking forward to making that jump. You know, like have a modern iOS and then modern Android, 2 phablets, and just carry them around in my pockets all the time.
Right.
Yeah, but fucking record everything. And Google Photos is boss.
Yeah. I was in my last position. I was using Google for everything, and since I left that job, I'm just like, other than my Gmail, I don't know. It's weird. Like my computer does a trick for it, but I know what you mean. I don't look to share across tons of devices. Like I got my laptop, my PC, my phone.
Yeah, but dude, I embrace the cloud, man. Because like the last thing you want, the situation I'm in right now, I've got something like 30,000 photos I've taken ever since I started getting into digital photography, and now I'm mixing in video as well. And I'm starting to fill up this 3 terabyte disk that like 3 terabyte. It's actually 2 disks. It's like a RAID set up to be RAID 0, RAID 1. It's mirrored. I have this inside of a NAS at my home. It's in my bedroom.
Right.
But if my home burns down right now, I'm losing everything. You know, if both of those hard drives crash, like right one after the other, I'm fucked. That's my life's photos and videos gone, right?
Yeah.
So that's flimsy. That's why you want to leverage the cloud.
Well, there's ups and downs. I mean, you're right, but I mean, like I've got a terabyte hard drive. It's in a fireproof safe, so if you've got your backup, you're good to go. Whereas if you're on the cloud, the CIA, FBI, anyone that want access to your stuff can get it.
That's why you run 2FA, man. 2FA and strong passwords. Use a password manager. Yeah, just embrace the shit. Like the banks, you know how they roll. They've got 2FA on all of the client's shit. Right? Security words when you call in so that you guard against social engineering attacks. Right? Set yourself up the same way.
We'll have to agree to disagree on this one, my friend.
Okay. All right. Suit yourself, man. Suit yourself. I want to be perfectly happy watching my house burning down. No, I think I can.
That's a terrible thing to say.
Oh shit! I just collect the insurance check. We'll rebuild into my own vision, and you fill it up with fewer but nicer things. That's it. I'm happy.
You've got so much crap laying around your house. I've wondered every time I've watched you what the hell you got going on there. It's like you just order something from Amazon every day and then it just hangs out on your stairs while you don't want to touch it.
Bro, let me show you what I recently got. All right, I got my hands on this thing. I fucking bought this on Amazon just the other day. And it's going to take, 10, 12 seconds for you to see it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I started walking around the neighborhood carrying this thing.
Yeah, I bet you did, topless and all.
Yeah, when I'm walking my dog, I'm just walking around, keeping it on my side. And, it's... my intention is to bring the point over to this drop point. So if I had to in a jiffy, I could run somebody through with it. Because we can do this in Texas now. It's fucking great.
Oh dear. Different country. Definitely a different country.
I love America, man.
my rapport with everyone in this community would go down so fast. I walk around topless with a wooden sword on my side.
Yeah, no, dude. I have people like fucking waving at me. I wave at the constables when they come around patrolling and shit. I don't care what they think. Yeah, it's this thing's pretty neat. You know, I want to get good with a sword, really good with a blade. You get so much reach.
Oh, tell me about the progress for you. You know, like since I started following your stream.
Yeah, I'm still dead ass broke. My cash flow is pretty much near nil.
But have you got a follower, like a follow age? Man?
Yeah, I think it's exclamation mark how long, or it could be exclamation mark follow age. There we go. It's how long, I think. So yeah, you've been around since 420. Blaze it, nice.
Right. That was meant to be. I guess that's a little bit of time.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
gone by, and you know, I kind of believe. Like I'm straightforward about this stuff. Whatever. It's. I think it's really encouraging and supportive. I'm all about encouraging and supporting, as opposed to ever getting down on people or anything like that. And I noticed in watching you, for me, on my side of things, kind of doing a similar kind of coasting, enjoying life and stuff. You're doing things. Every time I watch you, you're doing things, and I can't help but feel like I want you to be able to make the rapid progress that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere inside of me, I know how to make that happen as well. And yet I just wonder, like, how can we be more confident that we're not wasting our time? Even when you're doing things that you really feel are effective,
yeah.
Like sometimes you think about it and you're like, well, I just know that there's more I could be doing.
Yeah, I know there's a lot more I can be doing, and for me, the way forward is going to be through getting massive leverage. Like I need massive leverage, and I can do it with very little capital. But you know, I've got this. I was talking about it the other night. This feeling of discontent, a little ill at ease. I was this way back at the tail end of May before I took the road trip. I was freaking out and just financial worry. You know, because like, fuck, I'm broke. Amex submitted. I had to submit to the financial review with American Express, and all my accounts they're locked out. I can't. Like they canceled on me. They're not allowing me to charge anymore. Right, and that was the right move for them. I would have done the same exact thing. So I was freaking out. But now I'm really calm. After I took that road trip, I achieved a lot more clarity.
Right.
It's just spending time out in nature for a bit. And I thought, okay, what am I doing? What's actually useful with my time? What can I alone do that will help drive the channel forward? What content can I actually create? And I decided there are only a few things that I uniquely can do. I can move my body. I can speak words in my voice. I can write. I can share things that I've done. Share my experience. And that's pretty much it. Provide my opinion on a matter if somebody asks for it. That's it. So then the question becomes, okay, what do I have to offer that will most likely lead to success, that I can monetize? And the easiest answer to this, providing people help with personal finance. Because I may be broke as fuck, but I know how to consume smarter than the next guy. I know how to leverage better than the next guy. And I've got some philosophy about how I go about with my buys. I don't buy just anything. Because we recognize that things don't bring us happiness. It's those experiences with people that we love. That's what we remember. But I can't lie, this thing's making me pretty fucking happy.
I love it though. I mean, you know, it's my kid's always handing me there's two ninja swords, two plastic ninja swords. He's always handing me one with the other one, and then I just start
You guys spar.
Just going to town on him and slicing him apart, leaving him in shambles on the floor.
You don't go
bleeding.
easy on him, huh?
No, you can't, right? You got to teach him.
Yeah.
Get him from a
You
young
gotta learn
age
from
and
your
show him.
mistakes. Get back up again.
Because at some point, China is just going to attack. They're just going to come in waves, and we're just going to be standing here with.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to be China. It's going to be Trump and his armies. They're going to come up to Canada because apparently we're the we're the target. We're the enemy.
Shit.
Kim Jong Un is tight buddy, but we're the enemy.
Yeah, it's confusing. The world that we're living in now is a very confusing place.
But I don't take part. I kind of watch as it happens, and when things start going south, I've got plans, I've got backup strategies, everything's good. But as it stands now, I still get to enjoy this free world that isn't, World War II-esque.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
My grade 4 teacher, Mrs. Osmers, told me that history has a tendency to repeat itself. And that was right after she taught us everything about World War II. So I've spent all these years looking forward to the next Hitler. And I think Trump is it.
Here we go. Fucking Madeleine Albright also wrote about this. Fascism.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary, but I don't pay it much mind. You just have to hope that the checks and balances work out.
I don't pay much mind either, and I'm really optimistic about what's happening. I'm going to grab this book and read you an excerpt from it, okay?
Sounds great.
One sec. So, if you haven't read this book, I would highly recommend it. It's called The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. And like I said, this guy is just smarter than I am. He's also gotten further than I've gotten with spiritual progress in his life. He's probably quite a bit older. I don't know how old this guy is.
How do you spell his name?
Gary Zukav, Zukav.
Zukav. All right, I'm gonna make a note of this author's name.
I just have to find it. Just a sec.
Of course, take your time. An American teacher. The Seat of the Soul, huh? 1989.
Yeah.
He's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
That doesn't surprise me.
Wow, people really like that book, dude.
It's phenomenal.
Fuck, a foreword by Oprah Winfrey and a preface by Maya Angelou. Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. Gotta check that out.
It's basically the whole introduction that holds a lot of weight, but it's a lot of reading. It would take me as long as it takes you to do summaries.
Right. I mean, do whatever you want, man. It's not just my platform.
It's a fantastic talking point, so I don't have to just sit here and reel it off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really interested in reading the whole thing again, but really it's going to lead us to what I think we want to talk about.
Sure.
The evolution that we learned about in school is the evolution of physical form. We learned, for example, that the single-celled creatures of the oceans are the predecessors of all more complex forms of life. A fish is more complex and therefore more evolved than a sponge. A horse is more complex and therefore more evolved than a snake. A monkey is more complex and therefore more evolved than a horse. And so on, up to human beings, which are the most complex and therefore the most evolved life forms upon our planet. We were taught, in other words, that evolution means the progressive development of organizational complexity. This definition is an expression of the idea that the organism that is best able to control both its environment and all of the other organisms in its environment is the most evolved. Survival of the fittest means that the most evolved organism in a given environment is the organism that is at the top of the food chain in that environment. According to this definition, therefore, the organism that is most able to ensure its own survival, most able to serve its self-preservation, is the most evolved. We have long known that this definition of evolution is inadequate, but we've not known why. When two humans engage one another, they are, in terms of organizational complexity, equally evolved. If both have the same intelligence, yet one is small-minded, mean, and selfish, while the other is magnanimous and altruistic, we say that the one who is magnanimous and altruistic is the most evolved, more evolved rather. If one human intentionally sacrifices his or her life to save another by, for example, using his or her own body to shield another from an unseen bullet or a speeding car, we say that the human who sacrificed his or her life indeed was one of the most evolved among us. We know these things to be true, but they are at variance with our understanding of evolution. Jesus, we're told, foresaw the plot against his life, even to the details of how his friends would act and react, yet he did not run from what he saw. And I was like, is this like a religious book? And I like flip to the front, flip to the back. No, it's not, okay. He's just talking about someone we've got a lot of writing about.
Yep.
The entirety of humankind has been inexorably shaped by the power and love of one who gave his life for others. All who revere him, and almost all who but know his story, agree that he was one of the most evolved of their species. Our deeper understanding tells us that a truly evolved being is one that values others more than it values itself. This is a really important part. I'm just going to repeat that in case anyone wasn't paying attention. Our deeper understanding tells us that a truly evolved being is one that values others more than it values itself, and that values love more than it values the physical world and what is in it. We must now bring our understanding of evolution into alignment with this deeper understanding. It is important that we do this because our current understanding of evolution reflects the phase of evolution that we are now leaving. By examining this understanding, we can perceive how we have evolved to now and what we are now in the process of leaving behind. By reflecting upon a new and expanded understanding of evolution, one that validates our deepest truths, we can see what we are evolving into and what that means in terms of what we experience, what we value, and how we act. Our current understanding of evolution results from the fact that we have evolved until now by exploring physical reality with our five senses. We have been until now five-sensory human beings. We have been, I skipped a word. We have been until now five-sensory human beings. This path of evolution has allowed us to see the basic principles of the universe in concrete ways. We see through our five senses that every action is a cause that has an effect, and that every effect has a cause. We see the results of our intentions. We see that rage kills, it takes away breath, the life force, and it spills blood, the carrier of vitality. We see that kindness nurtures. We see and feel the effects of a snarl and a smile. This is where it starts to pick up, big time. We experience our ability to process knowledge. We see, for example, that a stick is a tool, and we see the effects of how we choose to use it. The club that kills can drive a stake into the ground to hold a shelter. The spear that takes a life can be used as a lever to ease life's burdens. The knife that cuts flesh can be used to cut cloth. The hands that build bombs can be used to build schools. The minds that coordinate the activities of violence can coordinate the activities of cooperation. We see that when the activities of life are infused with reverence, they come alive with meaning and purpose. We see that when reverence is lacking from life's activities, and this is a big one for me, the result is cruelty, violence, and loneliness. The physical arena is a magnificent learning environment. It is a school within which, through experimentation, we come to understand what causes us to expand and what causes us to contract, what causes us to grow and what causes us to shrivel, what nourishes our souls and what depletes them, what works and what does not. When the physical environment is seen only from the five-sensory point of view, physical survival appears to be the fundamental criterion of evolution because no other kind of evolution is detectable. It is from this point of view that survival of the fittest appears to be synonymous with evolution, and physical dominance appears to characterize advanced evolution. When perception of the physical world is limited to the five-sensory modality, The basis of life in the physical arena becomes fear. Power to control the environment and those within the environment appears to be essential. The need for physical dominance produces a type of competition that affects every aspect of our lives. It affects relationships between lovers and between superpowers, between siblings and between races, between classes, between sexes. It disrupts the natural tendency toward harmony between nations and between friends. The same energy that sent warships to the Persian Gulf sent soldiers to Vietnam and crusaders to Palestine. The energy that separated the family of Romeo from the family of Juliet is the same energy that separates the racial family of the black husband from the racial family of the white wife. The energy that set Lee Harvey Oswald against John Kennedy is the same energy that set Cain against Abel. Brothers and sisters quarrel for the same reason that corporations quarrel. They seek power over one another. The power to control the environment and those within it is power over what can be felt, smelled, tasted, heard, or seen. This type of power is external power. External power can be acquired or lost, as in the stock market or an election. It can be bought or stolen, transferred or inherited. It is thought of as something that can be gotten from someone else or somewhere else. One person's gain of external power is perceived as another person's loss. The result of seeing power as external is violence and destruction. All of our institutions, social, economic, and political, reflect our understanding of power as external. Families, like cultures, are patriarchal or matriarchal. One person wears the pants. Children learn this early and it shapes their lives. Police departments, like the military, are produced by the perception of power as external. Badge, boots, rank, radio, uniform, weapons, and armor are symbols of fear. Those who wear them are fearful. They fear to engage the world without defenses. Those who encounter these symbols are fearful. They fear the power that these symbols represent, or they fear those whom they expect this power to contain, or they fear both. The police and the military, like patriarchal and matriarchal families and cultures, are not origins of perception that power is external. They are reflections of the way that we as a species and as individuals have come to view power. The perception of power as external has shaped our economics. The ability to control economies within communities and within nations, and the ability to control the transnational economy of the world is concentrated in the hands of a few people. To protect workers from these people, we have created unions. To protect consumers, we have created bureaucracies and government. To protect the poor, we have created welfare systems. This is a perfect reflection of how we have come to perceive power as the possession of a few, while the majority serve as victims. Now, a lot of this is just context for what's coming. This is really, I was hoping to find an excerpt from the next part to just kind of spin us off, but here we go. Money is a symbol of external power. Those who have the most money have the most ability to control their environment and those within it, while those who have the least money have the least ability to control their environment and those within it. Did I just read that again? No. Money is acquired, lost, stolen, inherited, and fought for. Education, social status, fame, and things that are owned, if we derive a sense of increased security from them, are symbols of external power. Anything we fear to lose, a home, a car, an attractive body, an agile mind, a deep belief, is a symbol of external power. What we fear is an increase in our vulnerability. This results from seeing power as external. When power is seen as external, the hierarchies of our social, economic, political structures, as well as the hierarchies of the universe, appear as indicators of who has power and who does not. Those at the top appear to have the most power and therefore to be the most valuable and the least vulnerable. Those at the bottom appear to be the least powerful and therefore to be the least valuable and the most vulnerable. From this perception, the general is more valuable than the private. The executive is more valuable than the chauffeur. The doctor is more valuable than the receptionist. The parent is more valuable than the child. And the divine is more valuable than the worship. We fear to transgress our parents, our bosses, and our God. All perceptions of lesser and greater personal value result from the perception of power as external. Competition for external power lies at the heart of all violence. The secondary gain behind ideological conflicts such as capitalism versus communism, and religious conflicts such as Irish Catholic versus Irish Protestant, and geographical conflicts such as Jew versus Arab, and familial and marital conflicts is external power. It really focuses around power in this introduction, and that's why it means so much, because we're going to jump right into his biggest point. The perception of power as external splinters the psyche, whether it is the psyche of the individual, the community, the nation, or the world. There is no difference between acute schizophrenia and a world at war. There is no difference between the agony of a splintered soul and the agony of a splintered nation. When a husband and a wife compete for power, they engage the same dynamic that humans of one race do when they fear humans of another race. From these dynamics, we have formed our present understanding of evolution as a process of ever-increasing ability to dominate the environment and each other. This definition reflects the limitations of perceiving the physical world with only 5 senses. It reflects the competition for external power that is generated by fear. After millennia of brutality to one another, individual to individual and group to group, it is now clear that the insecurity which underlies the perception of power as external cannot be healed by the accumulation of external power. It is evident for all to see, not only with each newscast and evening paper, but also through each of our countless sufferings as individuals and as a species, that the perception of power as external brings only pain, violence, and destruction. This is how we've evolved until now, and this is what we are leaving behind. Our deeper understanding leads us to another kind of power, a power that loves life in every form that it appears, a power that does not judge what it encounters, a power that perceives meaningfulness and purpose in the smallest details upon the earth. This is authentic power. When we align our thoughts, emotions, and actions with the highest part of ourselves, we are filled with enthusiasm, purpose, and meaning. Life is rich and full. We have no thoughts of bitterness. We have no memory of fear. We are joyously and intimately engaged with our world. This is the experience of authentic power. Authentic power has its roots in the deepest source of our being. Authentic power cannot be bought, inherited, or hoarded. An authentically empowered person is incapable of making anyone or anything a victim. An authentically empowered person is one who is so strong, so empowered that the idea of using force against another is not a part of his or her consciousness. No understanding of evolution is adequate that does not have at its core that we are on a journey toward authentic power, and that authentic empowerment is the goal of our evolutionary process and the purpose of our being. We are evolving from a species that pursues external power into a species that pursues authentic power. We are leaving behind exploration of the physical world as our sole means of evolution. This means of evolution and the consciousness that results from an awareness that is limited to the 5 sensory modality are no longer adequate to what we must become. We are evolving from 5 sensory humans into multi-sensory humans. Our 5 senses together form a single sensory system that is designed to perceive physical reality. The perceptions of a multi-sensory human extend beyond physical reality to the larger dynamical systems of which our physical reality is a part. The multi-sensory human is able to perceive and to appreciate the role that our physical reality plays in a larger picture of evolution and the dynamics by which our physical reality is created and sustained. This realm is invisible to the 5 sensory human. It is in this invisible realm that the origins of our deepest values are found. From the perspective of this invisible realm, the motivations of those who consciously sacrifice their lives for higher purposes make sense. The power of Gandhi is explicable, and the compassionate acts of the Christ are comprehensible in a fullness that is not accessible to the 5 sensory human. All of our great teachers have been or are multisensory human. They have spoken to us and acted in accordance with perceptions and values that reflect the larger perspective of the multisensory being, and therefore their words and actions awaken within us the recognition of truths. From the perception of the 5 sensory human, we are alone in a universe that is physical. From the perception of the multisensory human, we are never alone, and the universe is alive, conscious, intelligent, compassionate. From the perception of the 5 sensory human, the physical world is an unaccountable given in which we unaccountably find ourselves and we strive to dominate it so that we can survive. From the perception of the multisensory human, the physical world is a learning environment that is created jointly by the souls that share it, and everything that occurs within it serves their learning. From the perception of the 5 sensory human, intentions have no effects. The effects of actions are physical, and not all actions affect us or others. From the perception of the multisensory human, the intention behind an action determines its effects. Every intention affects both us and others, and the effects of intentions extend far beyond the physical world. What does it mean to say that an invisible realm exists in which the origins of our deeper understandings are located? What are the implications of considering the existence of a realm that is not detectable through the five senses, but that can be known, explored, and understood by other human faculties? When a question is asked that cannot be answered within the common frame of reference, it can be classified as nonsensical, or it can be dismissed as a question that is not appropriate, or the person who is asking the question can expand his or her consciousness to encompass a frame of reference from which the question can be answered. The first two options are the easy ways out of a confrontation with a question that appears to be nonsensical or inappropriate. But the seeker, the true scientist, will allow himself or herself to expand into a frame of reference from which the answers that he or she is seeking can be understood. We as a species have been asking the questions, is there a God? Is there a divine intelligence? And is there a purpose to life? For as long as we have been able to articulate questions, the time has now come for us to expand into a frame of reference that allows these questions to be answered. The larger frame of reference of the multisensory human allows an understanding of the experientially meaningful distinction between the personality and the soul. Your personality is that part of you that was born into, lives within, and will die within time. To be a human and to have a personality are the same thing. Your personality, like your body, is the vehicle of your evolution. The decisions that you make and the actions that you take upon the earth are the means by which you evolve. At each moment, you choose the intentions that will shape your experiences and those things upon which you will focus your attention. These choices affect your evolutionary process. This is so for each person. If you choose unconsciously, you evolve unconsciously. If you choose consciously, you evolve consciously. The fearful and violent emotions that have come to characterize human existence can be experienced only by the personality. Only the personality can feel anger, fear, hatred, vengeance, sorrow, shame, regret, indifference, frustration, cynicism, and loneliness. Only the personality can judge, manipulate, and exploit. Only the personality can pursue external power. The personality can also be loving, compassionate, and wise in its relations with others, but love, compassion, wisdom do not come from the personality. They are experiences of the soul. Give me one sec. There we go. Your soul is that part of you that is immortal. Every person has a soul, but a personality that is limited in its perception to the five senses is not aware of its soul, and therefore cannot recognize the influences of its soul. As a personality becomes multisensory, its intuitions, its hunches, and subtle feelings become important to it. It senses things about itself, other people, and the situations in which it finds itself that it cannot justify on the basis of the information that its five senses can provide. It comes to recognize intentions and to respond to them rather than to the actions and the words that it encounters. It can recognize, for example, a warm heart beneath a harsh and angry manner, and a cold heart beneath polished and pleasing words. When a multisensory personality looks inside itself, it finds a multitude of different currents. Through experience, it learns to distinguish between these currents and to identify the emotional, psychological, and physical effects of each. It learns, for example, which currents produce anger, divisive thoughts, and destructive actions, and which currents produce love, healing thoughts, and constructive action. In time, it learns to value and to identify with those currents that generate creativity, healing, and love, and to challenge and release those currents that create negativity, disharmony, and violence. In this way, a personality comes to experience the energy of its soul. From there, just one second. Okay. While doing readings like this, and this is coming to an end now, this is the last page. It's like a roller coaster. Some parts are really gripping. So, but it's all relevant to the input, of course. And it goes the same for anything that I've heard you reading. Anything. It's amazing how some parts are so like in tune with what you want to read or hear, and some parts are just leading up to it. Same goes for conversations I have with my wife and everything. Your soul is not a passive or a theoretical entity that occupies a space in the vicinity of your chest cavity. It is a positive, purposeful force at the core of your being. It is that part of you that understands the impersonal nature of the energy dynamics in which you are involved, that loves without restriction and accepts without judgment. If you desire to know your soul, the first step is to recognize that you have a soul. The next step is to allow yourself to consider, if I have a soul, what is my soul? What does my soul want? What is the relationship between my soul and me? How does my soul affect my life? When the energy of the soul is recognized, acknowledged, and valued, it begins to infuse the life of the personality. I think a lot of people don't even they're like, oh, soul, yeah, right, okay, hippie. When the personality comes fully to serve the energy of its soul, that is authentic empowerment. This is the goal of the evolutionary process in which we're involved and the reason for our being. Every experience that you have and will have upon the earth encourages the alignment of your personality with your soul. And that's, for me, he's summing up, you are where you're meant to be, always. Every circumstance and situation gives you the opportunity to choose this path, to allow your soul to shine through you, to bring into the physical world through you its unending and unfathomable reverence for and love of life. This is a book about authentic empowerment, the alignment of the personality with the soul, what that involves, how it happens, and what it creates. To understand these things requires an understanding of things that appear unusual to the five-sensory human, but they become natural once you understand evolution, that five-sensory perception is a journey leading to multi-sensory perception, and you were not always meant to be five-sensory. The guy's absolutely brilliant, and it gets a lot better from there as well. Obviously, the actual book introductions aren't really the content you're looking for. I've got another book of his as well, The Dancing Woolly Masters, and this guy is he's devoted his life to something that I could easily devote my life to, but I won't be, because I know there's something important I'm on the planet to do.
Are you familiar with Alan Watts?
Yeah.
I used to enjoy listening to his lectures, while I was doing work. He was pretty cool for popularizing Eastern philosophy, Eastern religion in America. And the word I came up with while I was listening to your reading of that introduction was transcendentalism. There's some things that go beyond time. And this author would probably mention love being one of them. It's one of these books that you want to read and be able to, when you read out loud, for instance, you don't feel the same way as you do when you read to yourself. And when you hear someone reading something to you, I feel it's good, but it's not quite the same. You can't sit and think about a line that hits you the right way. But in reading that, I'm stoked, because I've always believed that when you're meant to find a book, when you're meant to read a book, it presents itself to you. You might stumble across it in a library. It doesn't really matter. The point is you're going to pick that book up and you're going to end up reading that book. And it's just like he says, you're doing that for a reason. Sure.
Your soul needs it. The experiences I've had in my life over the last few years especially have just given me complete and utter belief in the way of the universe, and that you're always where you're meant to be in any given moment. So it helps so much for people like myself who grew up feeling out of place feeling unaccepted and feeling like I always had to think a lot about what my next move was going to be. I call it up in your head. I call it a lot of things, but it absolutely destroys your psyche until you can kind of let go and say, this is what life is. You feel so much more at peace. And it's not a conscious decision, but I want to help people, and I'll do anything it takes, because it's torture. And it doesn't matter where you're at in life or what your life is like. You can take small steps or big steps to changing that. But the truth is, whether you're being kicked in the nuts or playing a game of soccer, you can experience whatever you want to from that. You can resent the people that kicked you and plan your revenge, like the guy who murdered my brother senselessly. Or you can let it go. You can move on. You can look forward to the next experience, because we're observers. We're here to observe.
Yep.
And he touches on that just with like a couple of words by saying, like, there's so much. You zoom in on something with your eyes, you look closely at a blade of grass, and there's more to it than when you're staring at a whole lawn. You stare at the lawn and you think, oh, it needs water. But you look at that blade of grass and you think, wow, this is a living thing. This is a part of a living thing. It's like my arm. And it's just the whole world has a lot to offer, and not too much at the same time. And that's where human beings become the complexity. And that's why I have so much interest in human beings. So much interest in human beings, because you never know what's coming around the corner. You never know when you're watching a streamer and he's just going to throw down a semi-auto on the table and take his shirt off and start pumping some pull-ups, or start reading you an excerpt from a book that you think is just absolutely phenomenal, or you don't know what's coming the next day. And some of the things that I've experienced are absolutely mind-blowing, like just mind-blowing, like way beyond coincidental. We're talking like things that are far outside of coincidental and more into magical and beautiful. Like, life is absolutely a gift, and you have to be grateful for it. You have to be grateful. And if you are full of gratitude, you can't be full of resentment for the things that have happened. People, vengeance, and that's where my evolution came from eventually. After being with a girl who was like absolutely just, after being with a girl that was mentally ill, deeply mentally ill, I'm glad, it finally ended up getting away from that relationship. And it didn't take me nearly as long as the first time that I was unhappy in a relationship, because I had learned that lesson already, and that was meant to be. But this, I learned from being with her, and then I learned from making a new friend, and then I learned from getting a job and losing a job, and I learned from doing psychedelic drugs and going to a rave, and I learned from one step after the next to get to where I am, that this is the way for me. And so it was experiences, and that's my message for people a lot of the time, is that I cannot tell you right now that you need to do something else. I cannot tell you right now that you need to think this way. Yeti, please just start thinking this way. And you're going to say, yeah, sure, I will. And we'll talk tomorrow. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll say, so what do you think about this? And you'll say, yeah, well, it's the same as usual. And I'll say, no, let's try again. And we go every day for a year. You're still going to think the same way that you thought. But if you just live your life, like Gary Zukav says, if you just line up with your soul and follow that path you're meant to be on, you're going to end up exactly where you're meant to be. Obviously, that's a given. But you're gonna evolve. You're gonna walk through the door. You're gonna evolve. You're going to level up. You're gonna get to the next level. You're gonna see that those people that upset you so much, and anyone, judgment is nasty, and it's easy. Even when you think you're outside of judgment, you're still judging people. Every single chance it comes up, all of a sudden, oh, I just judge that person. And you won't even notice you're doing it. Someone else has to get you doing it until you level up and get away from that. And you get to that level of Gandhi, You're topless. Gandhi was topless a lot of the time, so maybe you're closer to Gandhi than I am. I have no idea. But it's a beautiful thing. Thinking about helping people get outside of this mindset and getting out of their heads. And while I was vibing at my highest, when I was feeling my absolute best, I went down to my hometown and I hung out with a whole bunch of people. I hung out with old friends. I ended up seeing my niece when I came back to the island. And she was the best of it, and my sister's the worst. So I never see my sister ever. But my sister and my niece are around the same age. They're younger. They're about a decade, a bit more than that, younger than I am. I saw my sister first, and driving around with her and talking to her. She was the most up in her head person that I have met in a long, long time. She's nothing gets through to her. She's so concerned about vanity and worldly possessions. She doesn't have that spiritual growth. She's on level 1 or 0 and no signs of going anywhere from there. And it was so hard to spend any time with her because, you know, she wouldn't, her idea of a conversation is like Betty's hair or whatever. There's no girl's named Betty, but you know what I mean? Like her friend's hair is important to her. The shopping mall is important to her. And then I go out and see my niece, who I thought was the same way. So I'm trying to have a heart-to-heart with her after having all these heart-to-hearts with people and talking about important things with people. I go out and see my niece, and I brought her a little crystal that I bought, a little cool little blue crystal. Like, oh, you could make this into something, or it can just be your little lucky crystal or whatever. I just thought it was really cool. And she was like, holy crap, this is so cool, thank you. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, I love it so much, whatever. And then we started talking. I started having this heart-to-heart with her, and I dig deep right off the bat. And next thing I know, she's blowing my mind. She's already as far as I am because her mom is. And her mom has raised her. And it opened my mind and just said, dude, just be yourself. And these kids, my kids, are going to end up getting that progress that you sought out your whole life. My whole life, getting. My whole life. I wanted to be so much more aware and awake to what life has to offer, to appreciate these small things that you experience every day. Instead of thinking, oh, this isn't good enough, or oh, I haven't made it yet. No, you have. Of course you've made it. You beat the odds. Beautiful thing.
Yeah, we all won the genetic lottery, man.
That's right. That's exactly what I was referring to. Exactly what I was referring to.
We're all here right now. We can communicate. It's a beautiful thing.
Gratitude. You got to fill the soul with gratitude and trust. Trust in the way of the universe and understand that you will be where you're meant to be. When opportunity comes knocking, what do you do, Yeti? What do you do?
I try to, at least get my foot in the door.
Yeah, you're not going to jump in blindly and say, this is my everything. If you do, it's the first time that opportunities come knocking and you're going to learn. You're going to fall flat on your ass real quick. But sometimes, man, that opportunity comes knocking and you end up with a family that you've been looking forward to your whole life. Overnight, I went from having nothing and no one, basically, father and whatever, to my wife-to-be and 3 children. Overnight, dude. And that's what I wanted. And she actually found me. That was opportunity come knocking.
Yeah.
And she, it's struggling. We struggle. A lot of the time it's very difficult. Very difficult. But here's one of my largest philosophies since I kind of started to wake up a bit. And it's a simple one. Man, is it ever simple. Where your pecs meet at the bottom is a compass. The core of your being, there's a compass. Your soul has a compass. And it doesn't point north, south, east, or west. It tells you if what you're doing is the way forward or not. And that is so important to listen to. I remember when I was 18, meeting a girl, and my moral compass said, it's not really your type, dude. So I asked her if we could hang out so I could meet her friends, because I was looking for my type. And I remember when that moral compass told me, yeah, don't hit on them. They're not for you. I ignored it. That was the beginning of really starting to ignore my intuition, my instinct. Fundamentally ignoring it on just a small level. We're talking about like a small level, like the difference between choosing a granola bar or a chocolate bar. You know you should go for that granola bar, but then I'm going to grab that Kit Kat instead. And then you make up for it later if you're lucky, but you can't make up for life decisions where you're going down the wrong path. So fast forward 6 years with this woman, and it was the worst 6 years of my life. Every decision I made in that 6 years, like let's talk about just briefly. Let's think back to when we're living in a dump and we're fighting, screaming at each other. Probably the day before, I had dealt with the neighbor who was smashing the wall because he was mad at his girlfriend, knocking the bathroom tiles off my wall, nearly fighting with him in the hall, but then we ended up hugging. The police showing up at my door, the neighbor on the other side, and all of the problems that came with that place. It was insane. And here I am laying on the bed, her and I are arguing, and I've got weed scissors out and I'm chopping up some bud. And they're the foldable scissors, little tiny folding scissors, metal. When you open those up, they're pointy, real pointy.
Yeah, they are.
She pissed me off and walked out that door, and I whipped those scissors at the door, and they went directly into that door. And not 1 second later, she had turned around. She came back in that room, and that would have went straight into her stomach.
Fuck.
We make bad decisions, and they lead to worse things in our life. And things happen for a reason. So I was meant to go through all that, but I'm telling you right now, 100%, if I had listened to my moral compass, I would have had a better way forward through the lessons that I learned. And they probably would have still led to me losing my brother, but the way that reality is molded, you don't know that. It could have been anything could have happened. I don't place my brother's death on my hands in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just saying, reality is different, man. Reality is moldable and shapeable. And so when it comes to relationships, that's my moral compass is most important to me in a relationship. You start dating someone, or you start a proper relationship with someone, and you're together. I call it the moment. And it's like, you're doing something with that person. They say or do something. And it hits you like a punch in the face. And you realize in that moment, I don't want to be with this person anymore. All of a sudden you get all rational with yourself. Well, hold on. Yeah, I hear you, buddy. I hear you. You don't want to be with this woman. She's got a nice rack. She's got a good job. She's got a tight body. And she makes me breakfast every morning. So, I hear you that she just did something that wasn't just cringy. It was stupid. It was rude. It was whatever. Something that really does not resonate with you as who you are. And it's your choice. You go to ignore that. If you ignore that, bad times are ahead. And you might get that warning a second time. In matter of fact, you'll be living within that warning. But the sooner you listen to that, the sooner you're going on the path that you're meant to be on. That's the way I believe. And it has led me boom. I am exactly where I'm meant to be right now. And since I started following this, I'm progressing as fast as I possibly can. You've got different ways forward. The path of least resistance. My dad once said to me while I was still depressed, but out of that misery. I moved out of that town with my mom. Boom, I was away from it. Split up with that girl. Everything was fantastic, but I was still depressed because it hangs on. I talked to my dad on the phone. I said, man, things are great. I'm not there anymore, but I'm still miserable. And he said, Cameron, when are you going to stop swimming against the stream? When are you going to stop swimming against and in the other direction, the opposite direction, all the other fish? I went to Shambhala a few years later and spun the spirit animal wheel, and I'm a salmon. And I tell you right now, I'm swimming the same direction, buddy. We're all aiming for that same thing, but you will always encounter people going the wrong direction. And if you can just for those people say the same kind of thing my dad shared with me to help you spin around, that's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah.
It's about progressing as fast as you can. You know, the end point, that's my question. You know, instead of saying what is reality and why are we here, I've definitely gotten past those questions. And where I sit now, my question is, in the end, will I be at the same place? And my personal answer at this point in life is no, of course not. You can't be. There's not enough time. Time is valuable. The way that we perceive it and the way that we're living it, it doesn't really matter. You watch that clock, man, it's always going at the same speed. You can slow down time, sort of, by appreciating small things more and by not zoning out on media. But really, it's about your way forward. It's about following the path of least resistance. It's about making the right decisions and just following your compass, because it's there for you. And if you feel like, oh, I'm wasting time, you know, this leads back to my question for you before I started the excerpt or the introduction. How do you know if what you're doing every day with your gun on your desk and your little Ferrari sitting there, how do you know if the excerpts you're reading or the pull-ups and everything you're doing, how do you know if that is the right choice? It's because your moral compass is telling you. And maybe you've been ignoring it all along. And so I would urge you and anyone watching or listening, and anyone that you ever share anything like this with, if you take anything away from this, just to listen to that compass, to become aware once again, because you may have in the past decided to ignore it.
When you first saw all of these things laid out, what came across your mind? Because you turned the question back to me. How do I know this is the right direction? What thought went through your head?
I think I shared it with you. I'm a very open person, and you didn't have the gun on your desk. You were reading an excerpt when I came to your stream. You had a shirt on. And you were reading just a great excerpt. You were a good reader. It reminded me of myself. There's not a lot of people that I've listened to reading. Teachers usually read fairly well, but knowing when to pronounce, what to pronounce, and when to stop and talk about something, whatever, is really useful. So that's where I came to your stream. When you threw the gun on the desk, it was jarring. Like, I didn't see that coming in any way, shape, or form. And we talked about it, and that's where I became comfortable with it. You know, but as a first impression, it's going to make people assume, or it's going to draw the wrong crowd. Possibly. I don't want to assume. I'm not trying to say this is facts, bro. I got facts for you. Mm-hmm. And that's that your gun is going to draw the wrong crowd. I'm just saying, I think it's going to draw the wrong crowd. And there are plenty of guys on Twitch. I don't want to just say guys, but everyone I've seen are guys that are, you know, you might be a Trump supporter. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to get political, but like Trump supporters, you're going to get like Republicans or whatever. You're going to get people who are racist. You're going to get people who are narrow-minded. You're going to get like people that you're not looking to attract to the stream. You and I both really appreciate a cool gun and how nice. I've never been to a firearm range. I'd love to go. I think that's why I play Fortnite. You know, like I love the concept of like battling, shooting, and good aim and stuff. I wanted to be a sniper when I was a kid for SWAT. I think guns are really cool. But at some point it came up. My dad was like, "Oh, guns are bad. I don't like guns. They're about killing, and killing is bad." And then he ended up shooting with someone and really appreciating them. And I think he gained that appreciation that I have for them as well. Not to mention, man, in the end times, if someone comes knocking on my door looking to take me away from my family or my family away from me, man, I'll be pretty grateful that we've got guns.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what's going to put the divide between me and them real quick. I've got some knife skills. I've got some martial arts skills. Yeah. None of that's going to...
You're not doing any trouble here, not without a fight. Shit, did we lose you? I think that something crashed on his end. His system, shredem's system may have crashed. I'm looking at Cam's broadcast and it's just frozen. Let me double check against my end. Fuck. I hope we didn't lose anything. I'm still here. Hey.
I just loaded out for a second. I don't know. Your stream was loading. It must have been your net, eh?
No, mine was fine.
No.
I was looking at my end. It was fine, and you just suddenly cut off after I was agreeing with you that your stream went offline. You must have had a hiccup on your end.
Must have.
In any event, you were saying, like, I was agreeing with you that if somebody comes trying to cause trouble, like, we're not going down without a fight.
Right. So, yeah, that's, the long answer.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking with a friend of mine, a close friend. His name is Jeff, and he's now living in China. Shenzhen. He left the U.S. because, there's some problems here. We've got a pretty racist country. And there are a lot of little racists on Twitch. Cute little fucks. But, you're right. Some people may see the firearm and then think immediately I'm a card-carrying NRA member that I voted for Donald Trump. But neither one of these things is true. No. It's, if anything, it's a polarizing symbol. And it could be completely misconstrued. But it says more about the person that's interpreting than it does about me.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, like for me personally, I appreciated the reading. It showed, that you're an intellectual. Working out, fitness is huge. It's if your body's in good shape, and you can align with your soul, that's the biggest progress too. I totally left out that all those things that happened to me with the ex-girlfriend and with LSD and drugs and partying and stuff, all this stuff that brought together where I am now, working out every day for a year and a half, like going hard at the gym every single day. I didn't go like 2 days in the entire year. That was probably the biggest contributor to my happiness and joy and progress. So keep up with that. And it just makes me those are the things, man. The gun doesn't mean squat to me. It looks cool, It's like some people have overlays. You've got a gun.
Yep. I keep it simple around here, man. I like the little pop of color that the red dot adds.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a little splash. The symbols are really important. No, the Ferrari, it's important. I don't want a Ferrari Enzo, but I wouldn't mind having one. I've got more affordable dreams. And yeah, someday I intend to daily drive an exotic. Just whip it around to the grocery store. I'll keep it dirty. Unless I've got a pressure washer and I can do my own car washes. I'll get set up for that too.
I think that's probably a big difference for you and I. Fundamental difference. What drives you? What pushes you forward? What is your ambition built around? And what are you aiming to achieve in the end? For me, my answer would be if we both took that question and wrote out a page on it, there would be similarities, but fundamentally there'd be huge difference. Because I'm just like you, I wouldn't mind. I don't want Ferrari Enzo. I wouldn't mind one, obviously. Minus the insurance, which then I would have to be rich for.
Oh yeah.
And the speeding tickets. Don't forget those speeding tickets. Yeah. I don't live in Germany with the Autobahn, man.
Exactly. I'd push it slow, man. No matter what, just push it slow. Let people admire it. Because it's a work of art. This Italian engineers, wow, that thing's a work of art.
Yeah, no doubt. I've always appreciated nice cars, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like nice things, man. And ultimately, I want to have a lot of nice things here. I want to fill up this place with nice things. Just little memories from everywhere.
Sure.
It runs counter to this this minimalist streak that I've got.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's just I want Mother Base to be an extremely inviting, warm place.
Okay.
where there's no doubt in your mind, like, okay, something big is happening here.
Right.
Like, this is a seed from which everything flowed.
I want to be that. I don't want them to see that when they show up in external things. That I want to be that. You can feel that when you walk up to someone that knows things. You can feel it.
Of course you can. Of course. But you know, like the wealthiest men on earth, for money to them, they're so far beyond the base needs. It just becomes a way of keeping score, right?
Yeah.
I would like to be at that point where money is literally no object. And for me right now, the burn rate is so small that I have no intention of increasing my burn rate. I can get by on like $1,100 a month and keep all of my projects fueled and devote myself completely to what I do. It's nothing.
That's right.
Literally nothing. And I intend to get this. I want to get there fast.
What do you currently do for income again? I think we briefly spoke about it.
I'm dead ass broke, man. Like, I've been burning through savings for a while. My runway is looking shorter and shorter. And I'm taking a big gamble. Like, every single day. I was just reading, while you were reading that excerpt, I was also doing some personal reading. I need to get a lot more effective. I need to become 10 times more effective as a human being in order to actualize. And I've known this for years. For the past 5 years, every single year, my resolution is like, okay, I need to become 10 times more effective. How can I do that? And we choose 10x because it's a very lofty goal. Doubling up, not too hard. But we're talking like orders of magnitude.
See, probably my favorite book that exists that I've found so far is Be Here Now by Baba Ram Dass, a guy who completely made it in the 70s. Is Timothy Leary's good friend, and they did a lot together. But he was like a Stanford professor and he taught things at like Harvard and everything. And he completely made it. He had a couple houses, he had a couple boats, he had everything he wanted, but he still felt completely empty inside. And the short of it is that he ended up going to India with a friend, and this holy man walked into not a restaurant, but something like it. And all of a sudden, like he could feel it, and they started conversing, and next thing you know, he leaves everything with his friend and walks off with this tall holy man. And they go through walking like long distance towards this guy's temple, and every little community they came through, everyone would be crying and so happy to see this guy, and they'd all offer him food and fruit, and he would sit around and sing some basic songs on a little guitar.
Yeah.
And they finally get up to the temple, and Ram Dass became Ram Dass. He is not his name, and it just through a couple of basic experiences, he didn't need much to show him that that's where he was going to find what was important to him in life and fulfillment. And he never went back on that. And that's the way forward. If someone is actively seeking fulfillment and like they've already got all of the wealth and material goods that they wanted,
yeah,
and they leave it all behind, and not just someone, but this is like a similar story for a lot of people, if they can let go. If they can let go of what that symbol, that wealth, that power that they think comes with it. And he stayed there with nothing but himself and meditation and growth. And now if you listen to the guy, he's got like podcasts and stuff. He's a little bit harder to listen to. His book is plenty, but what it comes down to is the journey inwards is where the most progress comes from, and you feel more and more content with having absolutely nothing. You talk about minimalism. I mean,
yep.
that means something different to everyone. And in my house with all these kids and everything, I need so many things. I need my coffee press. I need the toilets and the garbage system. You know, like there's so much stuff I could not do without here. I could, but it would make life so much more frustrating and difficult. And I would get used to that, which is fine. But to me, if I was on my own at a certain age, I would have just devoted my life to that inward journey.
Sure.
You know, and gone off. And so instead, I just basically try and progress along with it every day in any way that I can, like having a nice conversation with you and doing what we're doing right now.
You got to roll with the punches. You can't take back things we've already done. Just got to keep moving them forward.
Yeah, dwelling on the past is a big thing too. Something I've talked a lot about with my wife, and it became apparent to me that a lot of time women, I don't want to be sexist, and I'm not trying to, I just mean like in my life, women have been much more focused on the past, and they might use it as a way forward, but you exhibit the ability to use it as a way forward, and they still dwell on it. And it's very frustrating when you get to a point where there's nothing in the past but lessons learned.
Right.
And someone wants to dwell on it and beat you up over it or beat themselves up over it. It's like, what are you doing right now? Like, that was yesterday.
Exactly.
And yesterday is fresh. We're not talking about yesterday. We're talking about 2 years ago.
Right.
She says, oh, I've said that before. Yeah, 2 years ago. And stuff changed because of it, but then it slipped back to the way it was. So why are we dwelling on that?
Easy to get depressed, especially when you take a view of time like that. You're trapped in the past. It'll kill you. It'll kill your forward momentum.
Yeah. Well, people are prone, very prone, Yeti, to basically some shape or form of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh yeah.
We call it, at this point in 2018, we call it PTSD.
Yep.
And it's much more complicated than that. Much, much more complicated than that. You can't just say everyone's got PTSD that gets triggered and has a really negative response.
Sure.
People try really hard in social situations to keep things going on a smooth path. If you say something offensive to someone, usually it'll take more than just that one comment to make them not want to talk to you anymore. But people that suffer from any form of PTSD, not only is that enough, they'll also start like really spiking outwards. And if you don't know that you're dealing with that or how to deal with that, you're going to have a bad time. You have to recognize it. In 2018, you have to recognize it, and you have to treat it with respect, because we've all been through some stuff. Some of us much, 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 much worse than others. And you can't make solid connections with people on a large scale like I want to without knowing and being able to define one of the most prominent problems that we face today, which is post-traumatic stress disorder.
I find it interesting that we've both had these experiences with the psychedelics.
Yeah.
I find that
not just psychedelics either. Not just psychedelics either. It was huge. It was MDMA that unlocked my soul in a big way. Showed me that I don't have to be this neurotic, up in my head person. It really, really changed things for me. And LSD, an amazing drug, took me apart and put me back together.
Yeah, I do that too, man.
I was like on a fundamental level.
Oh yeah.
And I was messed up from being depressed for 6 years, for the better part of 6 years. I was messed up, and then I grew out of it, and then I grew and leveled up a bunch and really, I was like, oh, I'm practically Gandhi at this point. I'm doing so well. I feel so good. I'm at such a high frequency. I feel fantastic every day.
Yeah.
And I went to Shambhala and did LSD, and I tripped hard for about 12 hours on some of the best acid that you can find. And by the end of it, when my breathing was my hearing and my sight was my smell and things just weren't okay, the end of it, I got myself back. Something that I gave up during my depression was one day I woke up and I said, man, if my mom hadn't lost her first son, she'd be losing her second one today.
Yeah.
And I gave up. And that's all I can be described as. I gave up on myself and I let it go. The personality that you're hearing talk to you right now, everything that holds was gone. And I built a fresh one when I finally got out of that depression. And I missed it. I thought about it from time to time. Like, man, I just don't feel that same urge forward that I used to. And I actually got that back thanks to LSD. Thanks to LSD, not thanks to Shambhala or the amazing music I was listening to or the friends I was hanging out with and the crazy experience I had. Literally just the entity that showed up in my mind as an empty pyramid, a 3D pyramid with an eye inside of it and all the snake tentacle things that came along with it. I closed my eyes listening to DJ Jazzy Jeff from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air dropping Mario at the end of his set, like, the entire crowd just loses their mind. And then right after him, Mixmaster Mike comes up, starts scratching records like nothing you've ever heard in your entire life. Even if you're not a fan of this stuff, it would blow your eyeballs into the back of your head.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, I was in shambles, walking back to my tent. I look up at this tree, Yeti. I look up at this just leafy tree, huge one, in the middle of Shambhala's tenting lot. And there's lights inside the tree pointing outwards on purpose. I'm sure they do this on purpose. They could post those lights on lampposts or whatever, but they put it inside the tree. And I'm walking past this tree, and it's nothing but pyramids. Little foot-by-foot pyramids turning in on themselves. And I could have stayed there and watched that for the rest of the trail. I wanted to so badly because my mind was just blown. But I couldn't stop walking back to my tent, which I then was able to get my phone when I started, like the trip started turning in a different direction. I was able to grab my phone and look up what's happening to me right now. I had never done any reading on it. It was just what we were doing that day. Everyone did that day. And I was able to resonate. I was able to find the answer, simple answer to what I was experiencing and keep my shit together. And I came out of that the next day. My best friend and I at the time, he's not my best friend by any means, but at the time he certainly was, had this conversation. And we're talking about God and the existence of God and the fact that where we were meant to be, what was meant to be was happening and how important it was. I didn't know at that point that I'd been taken apart and put back together. I just felt really, really good deep in my soul. And just then, as we're like, this conversation was just beautiful and emotional, but there were no tears falling down our cheeks until this guy walks up and walks around the corner and sees Scotty and turns around and looks at him and goes, "Scotty!" These guys have partied together for years and years and years, but they have that kind of connection that, or probably a much deeper one because more time was given to it, that him and I had. And then he walks away, and just as he does, Scotty looks at me and he goes, "There you go, right there, man," and tears rolling down his cheeks. That's exactly what we're talking about. The fact that he shows up right then when we're having that part of that conversation. And that's outside of coincidence. That's far outside of coincidence. That guy could have shown up any of the 7 days we were there or whatever, and he chose to show up right then and there after that trip.
It's pretty wild.
Super wild, man. I'm so grateful, so utterly grateful that I got to experience those things, because when I was growing up, I was so against drugs. So against drugs because of the war on drugs.
Oh yeah.
Because and my parents are like, "Oh yeah, I've dabbled in that." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's crazy. Why would you do that?" And little did I know that, it's not that big a deal. It's addiction.
Yeah.
It's losing control. That's the big deal.
Oh yeah.
And until you grow as a person, you're probably not, you don't know if you're going to be able to do things in moderation or not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes you have to learn those lessons the hard way.
I've definitely experienced a lot of things in the last few years, especially when you become more aware of these so-called coincidences. Atheists would call them flat coincidences, whatever. When you become so much more aware of it, you notice them more frequently, but you don't need to notice the ones that really are going to blow your mind. You just need to be looking for them.
Yeah.
In your day-to-day life. I originally started recognizing them when I'd have conversations, like say you and I having this conversation right now, and I can almost guarantee you that once we're done talking and we go on with our day, I will open up Reddit at some point and start scrolling through, and there's going to be a post on the front page somewhere that is going to word for word be about something unique that we talked about. Because for some reason, I mean, Reddit is such a vast thing. There's so much content on there of all types. But it makes it to the front page. It becomes forefront. Maybe I'm only going to look at the first 20 posts on Reddit, and for some reason, there are connections that line up with that. And I think it's us bringing our reality into being, as opposed to the whole world doing it. But it is. The whole world is doing it too.
Yeah.
But these coincidences aren't coincidences. They're things that we don't currently understand. I think, people like Einstein had better understanding than the layman. But there's something more there, something I'd definitely like to learn more about in my lifetime.
And the multiverse?
Yeah. Absolutely. The multiverse and quantum mechanics in general, and how thoughts really create reality.
I mean, it goes back to the word you said, right? Vibing, that you're moving at a higher frequency.
Yeah.
And it's all strings.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, to jump from one multiverse to another, all you have to do is think something. Better yet, say it. So,
I'm going to leave you with one final little piece of philosophy that came from this whole thing as well. There's so much more we can talk about the next time. I look forward to it as well. But it's something that I came to understand and appreciate, because I was able to analyze. I'm an analytical person, and I came to realize while I was vibing, while I was on that high frequency, that there's a simple concept, so that anyone that might hear it or understand it would know what's happening, be able to appreciate it more and be grateful for what they've accomplished. And I attributed so much of this concept and philosophy to exercise and working out. And therefore, that's probably where my term raising the bar came from. But I've got, let me see here. What I'm going to do is open up Microsoft Paint on my computer here. And just make a real quick simple diagram, because this goes a lot easier. This is a lot easier to explain with a diagram. A lot easier. So, through all these experiences I had, I started to feel better. I started to feel better and better every day. And I couldn't understand what had changed within me and why I felt so drastically different. And I think this concept isn't completely foreign to people. But it's not something that people are thinking about nearly enough, if they ever think about it. So this gray line on the left is basically us throughout our day and our mood. It's our flat line. It's how we feel when we're completely neutral. We're not happy or sad. And the black bar is our mood, what we're aiming for, how we're feeling. And, like, these are your lows, these are your highs, that's your frequency. This relates to frequency, but I'll get to that right after. So you feel, I just want to make sure everything's still live. There you go. I see this. This is good. throughout my life, as I was growing up, I always wanted higher highs. I was always focused on having as much fun as I possibly could, finding something new and exciting, but I wanted to feel better and better and better. I was blessed with a father who was doing well and making good money, and one day he just like randomly, when Super Nintendo came out, he just randomly went and bought me a Super Nintendo that day for no reason. It was not my birthday, nowhere near, nothing like that. And like that spiked my mood that day on such a degree. Things like that just led me, like when I got my first dirt bike and started riding around dirt, all these things. I wanted higher highs.
Yeah.
And it was what drove me. And I've experienced in my life some really low lows. As time went on, I came to understand when this all happened. I came to understand that the higher my highs were in any given time, the lower my lows were going to be. I was able to correlate them. It's not something that it becomes hokey pokey at that point. People that don't believe in karma suddenly go, well, maybe, how do you know that? How do you know that they are related? I'm telling you, life is balance. This chart is my balance chart. This is 100%, without a doubt, for me, take my word, life is balanced. And the higher your highs are, the lower your lows are going to be. Without a doubt, the higher your highs are, the lower your lows are going to be. And so the goal became to stay as close to center as possible. And that's just your mood. That's just your perspective. You might, be on a roller coaster and that's all you wanted your whole life. That doesn't mean that you should be spiking to feel so great about it. You just humble yourself and feel just good about it. And when you eventually get ill, you don't think, this is the worst. How could this happen to me? Or you get in a car accident, or you lose some money, whatever it is. Again, you just try and stay as close to center as possible. Simple concept, and only really putting it up for the second point, because that's where things really started to happen. And I started noticing that because I was able to implement that, but because that happened subconsciously for me, that suddenly I was feeling better and better no matter what was happening. So I went from having highs and lows and feeling crappy below the center line, right? Below the center line, you feel like crap, you feel like garbage, whether it's 1% or 100%, depression in all shapes and forms, or you feel good and positive and excited and hyped. And this bar went up as I exercised. This bar went up as I broadened my horizons and tried new things and met new people. This bar went up and up and up. And what happened was my lows were now feeling like my highs of yesterday. This middle bar, everything went above it. And I no longer, even when bad things were happening, losing a job, breaking up with a girlfriend, I no longer felt terrible inside on any degree. I felt completely okay. And when good things were happening, I felt so much better about it, but keeping in mind on the left side, of course, that you don't want to seek that. You can feel it. You can taste the best food you've ever tasted. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. You just think, wow, this is incredible. This tastes so good. But then you don't seek it out every day. And the goal for me is just to raise that bar and always continue raising that bar. And that, to me, is what enlightenment's all about.
May you keep getting higher, man.
You keep doing your pull-ups because you're literally pulling yourself up.
Oh yeah.
And you keep making the right decisions and following that moral compass. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I hope next time you do more talking. Not that you didn't, dude. I didn't give you a chance to. It's been fantastic, though. It's really nice to share the things that I have to say with people. And I don't think about anyone paying attention outside of you and I. This conversation was for you and I.
I mean, I want to thank you for sharing your experience, because it sounds like you've had a remarkable one, and that you've been able to ascribe great meaning to the things that have happened to you. You've been able to take these things that may have killed other people, instead derive strength from it. Continue to grow as opposed to withdrawing. Not everybody has this experience. Not everybody can talk about it in the way that you just did. And I have no doubt in my mind that after I highlight it and keep it up, there will be some people who will gain something out of it. At first, the numbers will be small, but it will grow. It's words that you said. It's all solid stuff, man. If you take a look at my stream briefly one more time. Oh yeah, I love this one, dude. I fucking love this one. It speaks volumes, dude. This is exactly how I came to feel. And you know, it's funny because the ex-girlfriend and I used to make wolf pup references. I was the big wolf, she was the pup. Oh yeah. And it was once I came out of that relationship that I found this picture. And quotes come with it, but it's essentially just telling you that you just get stronger, you get better at rolling with it, and you're still standing. And it's so important to be able to do that. As long as you let it, as long as you don't just say like, fuck it, I'm done. And this is, I actually showed this exact image. I brought it up with my friend Bernard. His handle is infinity_network. I still need to find those conversations I had with him, make sure they're all highlighted. Because and the first time I talked to him, I was just telling him, dude, all that happens, you lost your mojo. Just gotta go find it again. There's still money. He wasn't having it, he just wasn't ready. Right. And it sucks to see a friend of yours like struggling like that. Absolutely. And figuring out how you can help them, you know, whether it's telling them, you know, you just gotta find your mojo, or giving them something that you've developed, a tool that you've developed, because that's something that we'll talk about next time, about tools. Make sure you make note of that we can have this great conversation about tools. It's what we do best, is developing tools as we go, because if you don't have a tool for any given situation, you then have to develop one on the spot. And if it's a fast progressing situation, you don't have time to do that. But if you carry with you this broad range of tools, you can apply them in any situation. Like when you run into a suicidal person, they're there, they're ready to kill themselves. Yeah. You don't have time to develop a tool. You're going to flounder in your words. They're going to jump off that cliff, and you're going to feel like, man, I wish I could have done something to help that person. Yep. So, an absolute pleasure, my friend. I look forward to watching more of your streams. Keep it up. Keep up the hard work, and we'll talk again soon. Yeah, I'll get in touch with you over Discord. Now I know. Sounds good, buddy. Now I know better about you. Sounds good, buddy. All right. Take it easy. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I had no idea. I'll be honest, dude. When there was this one time you came by and you talked about leaving the banking job and going to go shoot guns together. I think I was at a really low point. Like the financial review shit had all gone down. I saw that, and it was like the one glimmer of hope that I had in this project. Just thinking, it's helped at least one person. There's hope. and I'd actually written out this brief message inside of my Discord server. I was going to push it over to the inner chamber, talking about my uncertainties. My fears that I couldn't move fast enough. I was thinking, I don't want to kill Yetieater again. I don't have to kill it. Thinking, was I too ambitious? Where did I go wrong? Tools are important. We'll talk more about tools.